Hello and welcome back to Pixels with Purpose, where the button is actually a button element, but the focus outline is hidden. My name is Salma and I am joined by Andreas, my co-host. We work at Nordcraft, and this podcast is sponsored by Nordcraft, which is the world's first web development engine. Nordcraft combines a state-of-the-art web framework with a suite of advanced visual tools that empowers designers and developers to collaborate and build high-performance web applications with pixel-perfect precision. Plus, it's all open source. And if you're watching the video version of this podcast, you might be confused about a bruise on my face. And no, I did not have an altercation with Andreas about tabs versus spaces. It was with my dentist, and he now has my wisdom tooth. And talking of wisdom, today we are joined by Andy Bell, who is founder at Set Studio and Piccalilly. He has published a complete CSS course at completecss.com. He has written a CSS book, everylayout.dev, and he runs a very, very good and wholesome newsletter called The Index. Hello, Andy.
Hello. You put me slightly off track when you mentioned having no focus outline, and I was like, I'm going to have to raise an issue about this. Yeah.
Send us the issues. We are open source on GitHub.
Fantastic.
Our intros are getting stranger, aren't they?
It's the Salma effect, Andreas.
That's because you gave me full responsibility, Andreas, and I like to surprise you every time we begin.
Well, success. Yeah. So, Andy, in case there's some listeners out there who don't know who you are, maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is you do for a living.
There'll be thousands of people who have no idea who I am, and that's how it should be. I guess the best way to describe what I am is a designer who got really frustrated when people didn't build the PSDs properly, and then turned to CSS, and then got really into that, and that's where I am now. And then, I turned that into running an agency and publication. Is the short story, I guess. Lots of stuff in between that, but we haven't got that long, have we? So I won't bore you with it.
No, please do. Tell us, how did you found Set Studio? Like, what was the process? I mean, it's like a big thing to found a whole thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite stressful. But it's a natural evolution. So I was a freelancer for a long time, and I was getting quite bored of being a freelancer. So I was doing a lot of CSS consultancy work, dealing with very much the same problems everywhere I went. The usual starting point was we went all in on Tailwind and now we regret it, or we went all in on other framework and now we regret it. And I was just getting tired of it, and I did miss the agency style project where you do full service. So I thought I either go and work in a company or I turn this thing into an agency, and I chose the latter because I'm unmanageable as a person. And it's worked out quite well so far, which is good. Not as much sleep as I'd like, but yeah, generally I'm quite happy with how it's turned out.
Let's dig into the unmanageable a little bit, because clearly, Andy, you might need to manage people now, or at least lead them in some direction. So what does being unmanageable mean?
The problem with me, Selma, is I'm not very good with authority. I was a very naughty child at school. I don't really resonate well with being told exactly what to do, and that is very much my my way of managing people. Also is like give you full like freedom to do what you need to do. Like, this is the stuff that we need to get done, right? These are the deliverables for a project, but I ain't going to tell you how to do it. Like, we get there however we get there. That goes all the way down to there's no set hours. Studio, you work, there's a couple of core hours in the middle of the day, but generally, like, you work to live, you don't live to work when you work here. And so I do everything that's the antithesis of what I've experienced working for agencies myself over the years. Like those high pressure, toxic environments. I like to think the studio is the exact opposite to that, and the output is probably better than those sorts of hellholes also.
Because you can't produce your best work under that kind of pressure, really, can you?
No, of course not. No, you can produce lots of work really fast, and that's what a lot of agencies are primed to do. Like they're working invoice to invoice, and they have to get on that billing schedule. So yeah, you just have to do the work. It doesn't matter whether it's good or not. It just has to go out. And I've never wanted to work like that. Hence why like Piccalilly exists. Like we've always been trying to find a way of making it work, and then enabling us to do like good work for people rather than like poor work that's very expensive.
It's funny to hear you say all that because it's very familiar. I think it's a little bit the story of every founder of like, I wasn't really manageable, so I decided to start my own, and like that I think that story is very familiar. I would say, especially on the why we had when we started Nordcraft, a big also idea around, we also wanted to build not just the product we wanted to use, but also the company we wanted to work for, based on very much the same kind of principles. And also came with the fact that I tried before in a startup, the full pressure, work hard hours, and we spent 6 months building the wrong thing. And I had to scrap all of it. It was like all those hours, all that extra time, and if we would have just sat down and relaxed a bit and thought we could have saved, we didn't have to do it. Like we could have known.
It's something I'm obsessed with, like the move slowly and methodically, and you actually go fast by doing so. Like you smooth the path as much as possible, and then the speed comes as a reaction to that, rather than going, no, we just have to go fast, and we just plow through. And that's where mistakes are made, and buttons with no focus outline are shipped and stuff like that. Like it's a reduction in shipping slop is moving slowly in the first place, and then the speed just increases as you move through the project then, because you know what you're doing and you've got a good idea of what you're doing.
What is it that you say in your talks? I can't quite get it in my head. Is it like smooth is slow and slow is fast, or slow is smooth and smooth is fast, or
that's
something?
The one. Yeah, slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Need to trademark that.
I think I nicked it from someone else, but I would otherwise. But it's just one of those sayings that goes around. I think they use it a lot in the trades, that saying, because you can't make a mistake in a trade. If you're like a carpenter, for example, like what's the main rule there? It's like measure twice, cut once, and it's that similar sort of methodology where if you invest time up front into planning things properly, then everything works out better for everyone, including for yourself, which is almost the most important thing.
Yeah. And I mean, testing is the same. The earlier you catch anything, the less time it costs you, right?
Yeah.
So the more you're rushing to push things out, that's just going to be more task on the back end.
Yeah. When you don't need them to be coming into the pipeline also. Yeah. Exactly. You try and move forward.
What types of projects do you currently deliver at Set Studio, and how do you work to...
Oh, interesting. Well, right at this particular moment, as we're speaking, we're doing a full redesign of a sort of like a premium bathroom wear brand. And the process of that is we're doing the full service, so a slight brand refresh, and then a really sort of high-end design language that goes with it, a design system strapped to that, and then a like full platform change also. So moving them over to Astro, setting them up with a like really fast baseline so they can like evolve that business. They've never really sold online before directly, so it's enabling them to do that and to smooth out the relationship they have with architects and interior designers and stuff that use them too. So yeah, the process of that, it varies wildly depending on what sort of client you've got. We're very lucky with those ones. They're very switched on, very open to us taking control, which is the right way to do it. And we start always with a discovery process that's I like to call the interrogation phase, where the client will feel like a criminal with the amount of questions that come flying at them from us. They always like laugh whenever I say that at the start of a project, as if like, oh yeah, it'll be fine. And then by the end of discovery, you just see this husk of a person at the other side. It's just been fully, all information's been ejected from the brain into Notion. But that's really important because you can't possibly make things better for people unless you understand what the problem is in the first place that they're trying to solve. So the deliverable of that discovery process is actually a brief, but a proper production brief that anyone can pick up and understand. And then so we build a team around that then. So like we've got our internal team, so there's 4 of us all together. And then we'll bring in specialists depending on what sort of work's done. So we've brought in Nick Chan, who's a specialist in integrating like e-commerce technologies into projects and stuff, so they can work with the client also. And then we move sprint by sprint, almost a bit startup-y in a sense. And each sprint is controlled. There's specific deliverables in each sprint, and we just work through that to stay on time and on budget.
So are you agile? Is agile like a thing these days, or it's a bit of a gross word these days, isn't it?
I'd say we're agile before corporates got a hold of it. Like what agile's supposed to be, rather than whatever the hell big corps did with it.
A group of guys in short sleeve shirts standing in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's none of that. You sit down in the stand-ups here. Yeah.
Oh.
But the it's that mentality of here's a set period of time, and this is the set amount of things that we aim to achieve in that period of time. Or you just end up completely overwhelmed. Like, imagine what a project looks like after the discovery. It looks like an impossible task to get through, like a huge amount of work to do. So we just break it up. So like you'll have specific themes in sprints also, like a sprint that'll be purely focused on information architecture and user experience, and a sprint that's completely focused on creative ideation. And then you've got like specific build sprints also. And it's really useful, mainly because we're a small studio as well. Like we can dip in and out of projects. Team members can also, like we've got a design lead that can dip out when we get into the technical stuff, and the technical people can dip out when all of the like high creative work's going on. Unfortunately for me, I had to not be able to dip out at all. I'm always find myself invested in it somewhere. But yeah, it seems to work really well for us. We've tried all sorts of different ways of doing things, and this seems to be the way that's stuck so far.
We never know who's going to ask the next question.
No, I
felt like that was the case then.
And we don't plan that bit out.
I would like to jump to the next question. So, what kind of tools do you think are crucial to running a successful agency?
Notion. Is the main one. Yeah, like everything runs through Notion for us. We don't even let clients come into Slack anymore, because the reason for it is if there's a paper trail for everything, then everything is easier in the long term. So like that initial project tends to be, it's organized, but it's also chaotic in places also because there's so many moving parts. So if all of that's happening in Notion, when you come back to do another like iteration in sort of 6 months' time, you've got paper trail of everything, and you can say, all right, okay, these were the problems were last time. These were the difficult areas. This is the sort of conversations we were having, and it's really hard to keep track of that in a Slack channel, because it's, even though there's threads, it's so linear, whereas like Notion is flexible enough to do like anything, and people tend to find it quite easy to use. You get a little bit of a initial period where they might be struggling a bit, but if you give them the right guidance, and like I just record them a quick loom and be like, look, this is the optimal way to use Notion, and they tend to pick it up really quick. So I'd say that's absolutely crucial for us. And I think it's not necessarily a tool, but a mentality is understand what everyone's strengths are really early on in the process. Like that's a big part of the work I do, and Vicky, our producer, does, is like what ticks the client, what do they do badly, what do they do well, how can we support them, identifying those strengths and weaknesses really quickly, and then having a process that molds around that, rather than you must follow this exact process. It's okay, well, this client's really switched on, but they're not very organized, so we're going to have to help organize these people also. And it's like, right, we're going to have to integrate that as part of our process. So it's finding ways of molding things to make things run smoothly. So I'd say like those are probably the most crucial things. Everything else is irrelevant. Just use whatever you want to make it happen. Like, we don't tend to be too gatekeepery about technology choices or anything like that. So yeah.
Would you get in a situation where, and I've been in this situation before, where clients would say, we need you to build this thing with this, and then it's like, well, no, it doesn't really matter, it's not the right option, or it's not where our expertise lies. Like, what do you do in that situation?
Almost every project starts like that. So like generally a client brief will come through and it'll be a shopping list of things and propose solutions to those shopping list items. And that's fine. It's great that they've put that thought into it. But a big part of the discovery process for us is, like, you've identified this tool as an option. We're going to test the absolute hell out of this now and make sure that it's even viable. Sort of prototypes with it. We find weaknesses in things really quickly and really easily. And then you can take those weaknesses to the client and say, look, in this very controlled and very sort of low fidelity prototype, it completely fell apart. So if we integrate this into a production project, it's going to fall apart. So here's a suggestion of technology instead. So for example, they might say, we want to build everything with React and Next.js, very common. But when you really delve deep into it, the reason they want to use React and Next.js is because it's just what they know and what they've heard is what's being used, when the more sensible solution is probably like Astro and probably React components still, that's fine, but not rendering a lot of stuff on the client. Like, it tends to not be necessary. So it's about, like, it's a bit like whack-a-mole. You've just got to iron out those problems really early on, and then the end result is generally something that's fast and that works really well.
Once again, I have another story from the field of when I was at an agency. And Andy, you were talking about a shopping list and proposed solutions. So there was this one client that we had that needed some, I can't even remember what it was for. It was some kind of sales funnel-y thing for some kind of promotion campaigns for things. Anyway, they had mocked up this whole thing that they needed in an Excel spreadsheet. And actually, it worked really well for calculating the numbers that they needed. Yeah. And it was a big spread. It was a whole app in Excel. And when you get presented with something like that, you think, well, we don't really need to rebuild it because this actually solves the problem that you were trying to solve. So use your spreadsheet and go away.
Yeah, don't give us thousands of pounds. Yeah.
But we built it in Next.js, and it really was just a glorified calculator.
It's it's quite a common tale, and I get it as well for clients. They feel like they have to do as much legwork up front as possible, and I imagine a lot of that comes from experience working with more traditional agencies that are seat of your pants, won't ask too many questions because really all they want is to get that billable work in and get it done and get it shipped. So when they come to us, it's often quite a culture shock where we would actually say in that situation, you don't need us. I don't know why you're even talking to us. Like, you've got something really good here. You know, maybe we'll give you some design principles to tart up that spreadsheet a little bit so it's a bit more user friendly. But other than that, like, you should be good to go. We'll see you when you need us, sort of thing.
And that is really good advice. You know, when you're going to experts, you don't need to come up with solutions. I love going to experts with a very vague idea of what I want and then just letting them do it, because it's always going to be better than what you think you can do because you don't know what they know. And I think that should be a tip for everyone in life, wherever they go.
Yeah.
I read about the story of America's most successful car salesman.
Oh yeah.
And because they like have like award shows and everything for that, and they interviewed him, asked what his success was, and basically his trick was, I always, the first time I meet a customer, I sell them a car that's a little bit cheaper than the one they thought they would, because most of the time when you're looking at a car, you're like impressed with all the features, and you probably don't need 2 out of 3 of them, right? You don't need ceramic disc brakes if you're not gonna be racing, right? Like it's just not a thing that you need. So save a bunch of money on that. And that's what he did. And he says that meant that he wasn't very successful for the first 3 years of his career, but very, very successful after that, because people always came back.
No, it's true though. Like your instinct, like especially when you're running a business, right? Your instinct is saying to you, I need to get as much cash in as possible, right? But like it's not a sustainable way of doing it, because to do that you have to exploit something, and like the trust that you would build up with clients is the thing that's getting exploited there. And coming in, and we often would come in cheaper than what you might think, because like we've simplified the problem down to something that's actually, you know, a hell of a lot more achievable. And it's like, yeah, by the way, you pegged that you had 100,000 budget, for example, now it's going to be 70. So because we've simplified it to this point, and that honestly does bode really well for long term. Not to mention when people talk about you, you know, so much word of mouth stuff happens when client services, and what you want people to be telling about your agency is how efficient they are, not these guys are really expensive and they did deliver something that works really well, but it was a really stressful project. You know, like that's the last thing you want people to be saying about you.
Absolutely. So speaking of money, a big question I think that's always floating around in agency work is, how much should I charge, and what should the pricing model be?
How much, how long? The two main questions in an agency. I thought I could never tell anyone how much to charge, because it's all dependent on various factors. But the pricing model we've got is pretty straightforward. Like we charge per sprint, and we charge 15 grand per sprint flat. There's no messing around. There's no hidden costs. We're not going to say how much budget have you got and then quote £1 less than that. Like we come very sort of forthcoming with how much we cost, and then if that's a sort of number that would work for a client, that's great. They'll come and get in touch with us, and if it isn't, then it saves everyone time, because like, okay, maybe these guys are slightly out of our price range, and having that same flat rate for everyone is just transparent and honest. Now, that might not work for everyone. What I would say is, if you're wanting to get into freelance or running an agency, is work out what your monthly cost is as an individual or as a business, and your rate should double that, because you're not going to be fully booked for 12 months. So there's, whenever you have billable work on, it's fulfilling that cost that you've got as a business, but it's also fulfilling a buffer that allows you to not have a complete panic attack when you don't have business to do. You go through very dry spells in client services. Having a buffer will help that massively. So it might feel slightly uncomfortable, because you might look at that, well, my day rate is going to be quite expensive. But the right clients will pay the day rate. They absolutely will. And if you're delivering good stuff, then they'll keep coming and they'll keep paying that day rate. And you'll have the buffer that helps you survive beyond that also.
So you've talked about transparency in pricing, the way you work, and sprints at different times of the project. What else do you attribute to the success of Set Studio, and how you've been able to turn that into a business that gives you enough money to live?
It's an interesting question. I think the main, I don't know if I'm allowed to say naughty words on this, giving an S about things has been really helpful.
I've decided that you can say it.
Giving a shit really helps, right?
Well, that's what you meant.
Yeah. Yeah, I won't say any of the really annoying
Oh.
ones, but yeah, that really helps, right? And I think, like for me, I've always been obsessive, like sharing as much as possible, like distributing as much as possible, and like we're quite open in the way that we do things in the studio, and like on Piccalilly as well, and I think that just helps. So we've landed clients because of that in the past. Like they've come through and they've said, "Look, you wrote this really interesting article," and then we delved in deeper and we discovered that you're actually an agency. And then we thought, well, if they're operating like that in public, then they're probably going to be really good when they're working with us also. So like sharing often and sharing a lot has definitely helped. And always having this like attitude of we're not going to take advantage of our position, and we're always going to be making sure that our noses are clean. Really helps too. So I think that those two things definitely have helped us. They have kept us quite close to the tech industry by proxy. But yeah, I definitely think that's helped us quite a lot.
So you've mentioned Piccalilly now a little bit more. I want to know how Piccalilly and the Index newsletter and how that all kind of fits in with Set Studio, and also, I guess, your own personal endeavors and online presence and brand.
But I always get a bit uncomfortable when someone says personal brand, but I think it's because I don't spend enough time on LinkedIn. But
it's supposed to be these days, apparently.
It's what they keep saying. It's really good as LinkedIn if you want to see what happened 2 weeks ago, I found. It's really good for that. If you want to launch something, you got no chance. But if you want to see what someone in your industry said 2 weeks ago, it is literally the place to be. It's almost more efficient than an RSS reader for that.
It's funny, we were having a conversation about that this morning. And that was actually the reason that I said it was probably quite good, because people will celebrate things and then you will get notified about that 2 weeks later. And so it surfaces it again. It keeps it relevant.
I guess so, yeah. It's not so useful if you've got a 1 week promotion though on your.
Very true.
Yeah, but what was it? Yeah, Piccalilly. But that actually started its life as a newsletter, and only a newsletter. Don't try and ask me why it's called Piccalilly. I found the domain name and I really liked it. I imagine I'd need to come up with a more enticing brand story than that, but that's the honest truth. Another fun fact about Piccalilly quickly is I don't even like the substance. The food, it is not very nice, but I do like the name and the way that it all comes together in terms of typography. But yeah, it just evolved really. It started as a newsletter. It evolved into my blog, I guess. So back in the day, it's where I used to do a lot of my writing. And then last year we made this conscious decision of, well, let's rebrand, redesign the brand and really push it and turn it into not Andy's blog, but it's the Set Studios blog, I guess. And it's a vector for us to give back as much as we take, because that's always been like a defining principle of the agency, is like we have to give back as much or if not more than we take. And yeah, it's just keeps evolving and growing and growing. There was a bit of a hole left. I know CSS Tricks is back now, but CSS Tricks sort of vanished for a little bit and a list of parts vanished. And there was this just hole for like high quality publication that I think needed filling. So that's what we did. Similarly to the Index, increasing its frequency, like that was a weekly newsletter, and then I turned it into a is it bi-weekly? Twice weekly.
No one knows if it's...
No one knows the answer.
If it's twice weekly or every fortnight, no one knows.
Every Wednesday and Friday. There we go. Because the sidebar newsletter stopped. And that was like the canonical resource for a lot of people. And I know it's come back now, but it's not come back in the same level that it was. So it's like, okay, people want curation and they want good links on the internet. And I spend a lot of my day reading good links on the internet. So like it makes sense for me to help with that somewhat and curate things for people. And yeah, it seems to be working out really well. So these things always just like evolve. Like we have like sort of pillars that we aim for, like this is what we want to be doing with it, but we just let it evolve naturally. And I think that sort of comes across in the way that we do things. Like it's very sort of chill and human-like, rather than like chasing specific KPIs or anything like that. It's like, people happy with the content? Yes. Okay, we're doing good. Let's keep doing that then. And yeah, it seems to be working out quite well. A couple of mishaps here and there, but yeah, it tends to be just growing naturally and nicely.
Tell us about your mishap.
Just the odd edit. The edit process may not have been as tight as it could have been, and the verification process may not as tight as it could have been in places. But you just own up to it and deal with it, And we're not a news publication, we are just like designers and developers who like writing. So there's just been a couple of incidents like that, but generally it's quite smooth sailing and everything seems to go down reasonably well. So yeah, I'm happy with it. Just got to keep it going now.
Always love getting the index in my inbox, I have to say. Because it's hard work when you have a day job and you have a busy life. It's hard work to find the good links on the internet because there are so many bad links on the internet. Yeah. So if someone can do that for me, then I'm all for it.
I open my RSS reader to everybody and via a newsletter. But yeah, it's just part of, like, you make a good point there, Sam. Like, it is hard to do these things when you're busy. If you organise your time around that sort of stuff like that, they're like every Wednesday and every Friday, I know, right, I've got to publish a newsletter today. So I collect all these links in a big bucket. And then like every Wednesday morning and Friday morning, before I do anything else, I'm going to sit and read some stuff this morning. And I'm going to actually like digest it and summarize it for people without being a GPT. And it's a really nice thing to do. It's really good for my own personal mental health also. Like it's just a nice thing to deliver every Wednesday and Friday. So if you're enjoying it, it's really easy to keep going. It's when things start to feel like a burden, then that's where either stop doing it or maybe change the way that you do it, because it's only going to get worse.
I can attest to having an enjoyable newsletter writing process because I set my process up to be deliberately enjoyable and not feel like work, and make it very easy to deliver. And I collect my links throughout the week and then I decide what to put in on a Thursday. Quick shameless plug. But it's you have to make things fun. You have to make things enjoyable. Otherwise you'll never want to do it, and then you'll fall off the wagon, and then what's the point anymore?
Yeah. Same can be said for writing also. Like, you should be enjoying yourself when you're writing, not feeling like I have to do it, or I have to do it like this or this specific way. Like, the way I write is the way I talk, like very loose, very sort of relaxed, and I'm not trying to aim for a certain like academic level of writing. I'm an arts kid that fell into coding. Like that very much comes across in the way I write. It's like finding what your enjoyment level is and actually like embracing it, and embrace being different also. Like, don't feel like you have to be the same as anyone else. Like, just fully embrace your niche, and people will enjoy it. There's always someone to enjoy it. The internet's a very big place.
Yes.
Very, very big place.
And especially on that, I think there's so many people writing on the internet that if you're not going to write as you, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
Let someone else do that. If you're trying to match a certain style of language or be extra formal or sound extra professional, well, now your content is just competing with a million other.
Yeah, they are also writing in that dry tone also.
And I mean, if it's not for everyone, that's probably even better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You cannot please everyone. It's impossible. Impossible.
I feel like I've been talking too much, so I'm going to defer to Andreas for the last question on the list.
For the last, well, yeah. So you recently wrote about how you are ripping up your business model.
Mm-hmm.
And you already mentioned this with Piccalilly, a lot about giving back, but you also put it on Open Collective.
Yes.
Can you talk a bit about that?
Oh, I'll talk all day about that. Yeah. This is like the the most excited I've been in our industry for a long time. I've been doing this a very, very long time, and the idea is that we're obviously a commercial agency. We do work for commercial clients and do that really successfully. But as everyone listening to this can probably agree, that the world is not in a very good place right now, on multiple fronts. And we want to try and help contribute to at least helping some of that along in the right direction. So the idea is that we're going to find like progressive campaigns, progressive groups, anything that's going to make people's lives tangibly better. And then we're going to deliver agency level work for them for free. And then on the back of that, we can then use that to educate people via Piccalilly also, because what's more useful than an actual real project in the open to teach people how to like optimize certain parts of their workflows, or just teach them how to navigate various situations that come up in projects, which a lot of situations come up in projects. But we've opened the Open Collective, and if that works out, we've got like stretch goals in there. If that works out, we can work on this full time, and not do commercial projects for clients anymore, and work fully on these projects for organizations that are helping people, and try and counter the sort of sleepwalking into the far right and in the tech industry, like the AI sort of slop that's dominating at the moment, and just remind people that there is a craft there, and that it's a really good idea to get good at the craft, because you're going to be needed in X amount of years when the hype cycle bursts on this particular flavor of tech hype cycle.
Hopefully a little bit before a couple of years, yeah. But can you briefly just tell what Open Collective is?
So
if there's anybody who doesn't know.
It's a bit like Patreon, but it's transparent. So it's not like a hidden bucket of money. Like, you can see everything. Like, if you go onto the Open Collective profile, like, you can see how many donations we've had. We've not taken anything out of it yet, but every time we take anything out of it, there's a paper trail for that, so people can see what we're taking money for. And the idea of it, so a lot of open source projects use it, and people donate to those open source projects, and because it's fully transparent, and yeah, it's a really nice little system. That was a really important thing when we were coming up with this plan, was people have to trust us. We can't just take their money and not deliver anything, and also we have to show what the money's doing and how it's been distributed. And the dream scenario for me is that we get enough backing on Open Collective that we have a network of freelancers that we use, that we can bring those freelancers in who are all going through dry spells because the industry's currently being dominated by a race to the bottom, to surface those people and show how good these people are at what they do also, and get them paid gigs. And if that's all funded by the community, then what a win that is for the industry. And I think that's the main thing for me, is it feels like it's a big win in the making, and a very positive thing. And yeah, I hope it happens. I really do. It'd be really good if it does. Yeah.
Toot my own horn, but I am a proud supporter of Piccalilly on the Open Collective. I feel like you need badges or something, but I feel like that might be a waste of money to use the Open Collective money on badges. But maybe I'll make my own.
We've got a bit of a habit for overspending on such things, and so yeah, we're like, okay, we've used the entire budget, but we've made these like beautiful halo foil pin badges, that we've spent months, getting absolutely perfect. But yeah, it's a really tricky one, because like you sort of have to, because we're like a private company as well. You have to give no benefit for taking that sort of donation back, so you can't really give people like statuses and stuff. Like, it's really finicky. Like, I've spent so much time reading dry documentation from gov.uk, you won't believe it, and it's really annoying, but I also understand like why that is also, because otherwise companies would exploit it. But we do need to find a way of making people feel better about what they're doing. And I'm hoping that just seeing like the unbelievable amount of content that's going to come from this will make people feel really good about it, because I don't think you're ready for what's coming, is all I'm saying. There's some,
You heard it here
really
first.
cool, it's going to be very interesting.
Big things coming. Sounds amazing. I can't wait to see what happens. I know it's really early days, but I can't wait to see what happens. And hopefully you'll inspire some others, some other companies, some other people. I don't know, like it seems like it's what the industry and world needs, I think.
Yeah, I really hope so.
And to anyone listening, you can go to, you can get there both from, I think, the Piccalilly page or from Open Collective. And I believe I saw Piccalilly was just like the default is just £3 a month.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably well within most people's budget if you enjoy what they're doing and want to support.
Yeah,
it's not even a coffee, is it? It's not even the price of a coffee these days.
It's not the price of a really bad gas station coffee that you're probably going to throw out after having a single sip. So really,
so you got
what's
two
the
Northerners
biggest?
Yeah, two Northerners going, how much?
Andy, I am not from the north, and you know it.
You just live there.
I just live there.
Cute. Yeah. Well, you're an adopted Northerner. I imagine you've inherited our tightness somehow.
Yeah, I've been here for over half my life now, so I guess technically I am.
Yeah, but this is it. Like, we set that minimum contribution as like £3 a month, and it's like, just contribute whatever you want and whatever you can. Like, I think one thing I really would quite like to see is like organizations fund open source, that organizations also try and fund this too, because like, what a way to use training budgets and stuff, it's like, okay, well, you could just get a course, or you could get this, like, enable this content to happen, and our staff will probably really benefit from that, and we will too, by getting this free behind the scenes look at how a business actually operates. Yeah.
Good stuff. Do you know what? We have never any idea what we're doing on this podcast. So just right now, I invented the last part of this podcast, which is a quick fire round that consists of 3 questions I just took out the top of my head. Andy, what is your favorite HTML element and why?
Oh, that's a good one. The emphasis tag, the EM tag, because my prose is riddled with it all over the place, so I love italicized text. Yeah.
And what's your favorite thing about the internet?
The vast majority of it is free and open to anyone, and that's how it should be.
And to finish on a more negative note, what's your least favorite thing about the internet, Andy?
Vaporware scams, aka AI, is currently there. It was crypto before that. NFTs, AI is currently on the grift train, and so whatever gets on the grift train is never going to have a fan from here. So yeah, if you want to hear me hate on AI, then we'll have to record another one. But yeah, I could talk all day about what I don't like about AI.
People just gotta be slurping up that juice.
Exactly that, yeah.
AI juice.
Yeah, I think we're well covered on that content, though. I don't think we don't need any support.
All we talk about, is AI in this industry. It's so boring, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that newsletter as well. Yeah.
I have a very positive spin, which is I think that in a year or two, it'll be really exciting, because I think right now everyone who's building anything was like jumping on the first idea, right? It's not really sitting down and solving a problem. It's like, let's get there faster than anybody else. And that's never going to be the most interesting products. It's going to be the obvious ones, right?
Because slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Yeah. VCs don't work like that, though. Yeah.
So I think, but the potential is there, but I think it requires some more innovation before people really come up with the best use cases. And I don't think we've seen them yet. I
think it needs more talent behind it. I think that's what it really needs.
Exactly.
I think there's a huge swath of very mediocre white dudes currently pioneering AI, and it needs the opposite of that to be good. So until that happens, then I think it's going to continue being a disappointing outcome. But you're right. I think if good people get involved in it, then things might actually start to look up a bit more positively.
Are you trying to encourage me to get into AI, Andy?
No, I wouldn't dream of it. Yeah. You should be exactly where you are. Yeah.
Because I'm not feeling it yet. Not feeling it whatsoever.
Nah. I'll be honest though, like I have like earnestly tried to say, like, because there was when it first came around, it was like, oh, this is rubbish. But then I listened to a few perspectives of like, you can't criticize it until you try it. And like, I've often had that mentality. So I was like, okay, I'll try it really earnestly. And it's garbage. The vast majority of the time. But then I guess that's the sort of work I do. I think if your job is to, like, pump out components all day, then it's probably actually quite useful. But that's just not my job. So I find it very useless. It's very good at generating markdown tables, so I'll give it that. But other than that, yeah, I find it mostly useless and just annoying how preppy and happy it is. Like, I want one that's more like me.
There's the northerner coming in.
Yeah.
Why are you so happy?
They need like a European AI that speaks like a German, like just very blunt and honest, and then I'd be really happy. Yeah.
Actually, that's probably it. We need Germany to do the European AI. That would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. In full German mode. So it's, no pleasantries, just straight up.
And in German. Like if suddenly you got to learn that language.
You have to learn German to use it. Yeah,
obviously cool it's not as like a minimum bar. If you're not, then we don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Excellent. I think that means we're out of serious topics now that we've covered this, doesn't it? And we should start. It always
happens around this time in the podcast, doesn't it? We start talking about absolute garbage. So thank you, Andy, for joining us for this episode of Pixels with Purpose. It has been absolutely wonderful, and we will see you next time, same place, whatever that is. And thanks for listening.